Hey guys, I wanted to tell you guys a quick story about how I got started in wholesaling with zero money. This was last year. I did two wholesale deals. I am a full time real estate agent and I don't necessarily work in off market properties a lot. However, when opportunity presents itself, I do try to take advantage when I can. And so here's a quick story about how I got into wholesaling. So last year, I was doing what most of them will call driving for dollars. I did go to a class with a title attorney, and they talked about how to get into wholesaling real estate. And the most important thing is to dive in and start. Do not take a lot of courses, don't spend a lot of money. And I didn't do any of that. I watched a few YouTube videos. I didn't quite understand it at first. And then I just went out and said, I'm just going to go out and do it. No signs, just literally knocking on doors. And so one day I literally go to this for sale by owner, and I talked to the for sale by owner, and the first thing I did was we talked about how much he wanted to sell his home for. Well, he told me he wanted to sell his home for one price, and originally I went there with the intentions of listing, and he wanted to sell at, and this was a deal that his home was worth, it was already in perfect condition, move-in ready, and it was worth roughly anywhere from around 45 to $49,000. And so my intention was to list and say, hey, I'll go ahead and I will go ahead and list that property for that amount. Well, he came back and said, well, I don't want to list with an agent. However, I will sell it to you. And I said, well, I'm not necessarily buying right now. See, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't quite have the script down. So I said, hey, well, call me back. Let's just talk about it later, because I really want to list your house. That's what I do for a living. And he called me back and said, hey man, I know that you said you might buy, because I did leave that room open. I said, well, I might purchase it. And he said, well, if you want to purchase it, I'll sell it to you for 37,000. And I said, okay, great. I'll have the money for you in 30 days. So what that did was I put him under contract, and I went and searched furiously for a buyer. And the search for a buyer came by way of another property that I had sold on market. So I had sold my one client's property, and then they purchased my the home that I had already had under contract. So by the time it was said and done, I had purchased one property for 37,000 and I sold it for 44,000. And literally a wholesaler was born. And I thought to myself, wow, that I didn't believe how to, I didn't believe I can do it myself. And I'm not going to give you this polished way of, man, I'm so amazing, I did it. No, it was literally, I fell into this by mistake, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I did get a lot of advice and a lot of input from the title company that I work with, and you can, and I say all that to say that yes, you can get into wholesaling with no money. The thing is you are going to have to find a buyer, and you're going to have to find a seller. That is the most important piece of it. And most people are not good at doing either. They're either good at finding buyers but not necessarily sellers, and they're good at finding sellers and not necessarily great at finding buyers. And so that is the important piece. There's another piece that also a lot of people don't necessarily want the right price for their home. And so that is another challenge that you're going to have to overcome as you're trying to find buyers and find sellers and be able to work through that dynamic. And so I'm going to do another video on wholesaling, but I wanted to at least communicate to you guys how I got into the business. Have a good one. Thanks.